Hi everyone, welcome back to JPWHU TV. This is a bit of a different one and a content we haven't made for a long time. As you guys know, the channel has a Patreon. If you want to become a Patreon, click the links in the description below. And when you become an Academy member, when you become a starting 11 member, you get your own one-to-one live recorded one-to-one interview where we talk about you and how you into West Ham, and basically just evolve the conversation. So as we finally got Riley on board over the last 3 or 4 weeks, regular viewers have been watching, you guys would have known he's had issue after issue, which is not uncommon. Same thing with Rick, but we've finally got him in now, and he's live here with us. So please welcome everybody welcome right back Academy starting 11 member Riley. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing well, mate. How are you?
Keeping very good, thank you, mate. Keeping very good. Okay, so as I said to you before we started recording, the floor is yours, mate. You tell us about you, where you're from. More specifically, one thing I'm really keen to know about is obviously because you said when we were sorting out your your starting 11 position, you said at right back, you played right back. So give us your history and let us know how you performed as a right back, who you played for, etc., etc. And the floor is yours, mate.
Well, it's funny. Growing up, I was born in South London, an area called Tooting. So everyone around me was a Chelsea fan. You got Fulham, Man United, Man City, and my dad was a West Ham fan. And I wasn't really into football until around 10, 11. I used to go to a school called Southwards Academy, and Mikel Antonio actually came back to his old school, basically. And I was lucky enough to play football with him and have a conversation with him. And he went, I used to play right back. So naturally, being a right footed player, I started playing right back myself. Some little teams, Wandsworth Town and whatnot, that areas where I'm from. I haven't been able to keep that position, unfortunately. I remember just having a conversation with him and thinking, you know what, West Ham's got to be my club. And it's got to be right back. So that's basically my football journey started, and how I started to support West Ham.
Cool. So just out of context, Riley, because obviously, we only really see you from a chat point of view, and unfortunately you don't have a webcam, so it would be nice to have a face-to-face, but it's cool. At least we got some human contact going on here now. Tell us, first of all, how old are you, first of all?
I'm 18.
18,
so
okay.
I'm there and thereabouts.
Right, so you've kind of got very sort of Golden Sullivan history behind you,
I've got very modern West Ham history behind me.
Okay, so what was your first West Ham game?
Well, my first ever West Ham game.
Yeah.
I remember me and my dad were down Ipswich back in down 2011, seeing one of his mates, and we were just there. And he said, "Do you fancy going to football?" And I think I was 11, I was 7, 8. We went down to Portman Road, and it was West Ham Ipswich. And I remember we got battered 5-1. I remember that result. That's what I remember stuck in my head. But my first home game, I think it was 2-0 for Newcastle at the Bowling in the last season. I remember I was lucky enough to experience some games at the Bowling before we moved. When one of them was a 0-0 v Stoke. I think the Newcastle one, it was 2-0 or 3-0 there and thereabouts. And we lost to Swansea 4-1 in one of the penultimate games.
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, mate, one of my memories of Newcastle at home is a few seasons. Well, it was the season we got relegated under Zola Avron Grant, and we got absolutely battered. If I remember correctly, I think Andy Carroll got either a brace or a hat trick in that game. I can't remember, but one member, because that was 2010. I'd lost me and my sister had lost my dad to cancer a few weeks, but literally about 3 or 4 weeks beforehand. And the worst memory I've got of that game is the whole of the Bobby Moore, including myself, screaming at what was going on, and this little girl about 3 or 4 rows behind me was crying her eyes out. She's only about 4 or 5 because she was so scared because you've got like, what was it, 1,500, 2,000 people, whatever it was, screaming at the top of their lungs, profanities left, right, and centre. She was scared out of her wits, bless her, and I'll never forget that. Absolutely never forget that. So, yeah, because you're absolutely right. You know, we did also lose to Swansea, and we all kind of thought, well, you know, this where the hell is this going to go for the last season?
Yeah,
and you know, and the recap of that in the Iron Men film as well, for that matter, that was absolutely painful. So I know this is a bit of a cliche question, mate, but obviously because of you having youngster memories of the bowling going into the London Stadium, which stadium do you find the most enjoyable out of the two, or are you more acceptive now of the London Stadium if and when you've been to any of the games?
I think acceptive is a good word. I think now, especially with the season we're having and Europa League nights, you can see what the London Stadium can be.
Mm.
You know, and I think we're starting to slowly accept that this is our home now. You know, it just is. We have to work with it. I would have loved to experience the bowling a couple more times because I remember there's been some games at London Stadium where the atmosphere is pretty lacking.
Mm-hmm.
It takes away from the game, obviously far away from the pitch, and it affects play. I think from time there, and from what I saw about 3 years ago at the London Stadium, you know, losing to relegation rival teams and thinking, well, we could be playing Championship football next season to tomorrow night we're playing in a Europa League semi-final. I think it has to be London Stadium. There has been some good nights at that stadium as well.
I mean, I know what you mean. Last season, the Trevor Brooking and the Bobby Moores were brought further forward, and I don't think, to be honest with you, I know it's a cliche argument that you've used, and I get it. I understand the reasons, because that was my first reaction when we first walked in there for that Europa League game. That was literally the very, very first Europa League game where
it's rapidly in.
What's his name? The Figuli made his debut. When Figuli made his debut, that was the very, very first Europa game ever at the London Stadium. Not that ceremony that we had against whoever it was. I can't remember it now. But the the stadium was so incomplete that my season ticket's always been in the Bobby Moore lower, and I had to sit in the upper tier because my seat wasn't ready. It was so West Ham. It's like, yeah, we've got a game, but you can't sit whether you paid for. You got to pay. And don't get me wrong, the upper tier view was fantastic. Really was good. But as I say, yeah, I've been there for pretty much every single game since we moved, and yeah. That's the reason why I asked you if it's an acceptance now, because I have accepted it. We can't move anywhere. You know, I'm still with the majority of my mates I was with, so it's all good from that side of things. But I genuinely don't think the space around the pitch has that much of an impact, because we've seen teams. Well, West Ham have played in Europa League in stadiums that are further away than we are. As fans, it's just people aren't used to it, and hopefully now we've been there for 6 seasons, 7 seasons now. Hopefully people will, that I mean, like you're saying, like for example, you know, the Sevilla first leg and the Leon legs and all that Sevilla second leg and the Leon first leg and everything. It's just been, the atmosphere's been mental because everybody knows how special it is. So we do, and you know, Dave Walker's mentioned it on the West Ham Way podcast quite a few times. It's indicative of all stadiums. Wherever you go, the majority of the time, home fans are silent, especially on a Sunday. You know, that's what I never understand why that's the case on a Sunday. You know, it's because it's probably okay because it's a Sunday and everyone's been out celebrating, blah blah blah. But everyone does that on the Friday night as well, for that matter. So. It's just, it's weird. It is weird. But like you said, mate, you know, the midweek games are unbelievably good atmospheres, really, really
Mm.
rocking. And but at the same point, you can argue like what was going on with Chelsea at the minute, because they've those you only see those season ticket holders. Maybe it's because other people that don't want to go to those Europa League games. I mean, they must be fucking mental, to be honest with you, if you don't want to go to a Europa League game.
Yeah.
But at the same point, you've got people that travel from all over the country as West Ham supporters. Like, for example, I've got an old mate of mine who lives up in Norwich and hated midweek games. A mate of mine who's a school bus driver can't do midweek games because so there's those seats will go available to people, but during the week. But in general, it is down to us, not the stadium, to make it rocking the way that it can be. Like, but it's more rocking during the week than it is at the weekend. But having said that, like, for example, when you would have noticed it at the Ipswich game, your first ever game, how quiet the home fans would have been.
Yeah.
In comparison to the away fans, it's like that all over the world, to a degree. But yeah, I get it. It is. I mean, we've all got fond memories. I mean, for example, for me, I'm fourth generation, so my great granddad used to work at the Thames Iron Works, where Canning Town tube station now is. That's where the docks were.
Yeah.
So it's been in my family for that long. So it's my granddad's going to the bowling, my uncles, and now me and my cousins. So I've got that family attachment. But like you're saying, with your memories now will be, and predominantly going forward, will be more of the London Stadium than it was of the old ground. And that's the problem. People are, as football fans, we seem to want to live in the past rather than try and embrace the future. And this is what a lot of the conversations always go about. Because you talk to anybody, maybe 2 or 3 years older than you, in their mid-20s, for example, and they will wax lyrical about how great the bowling used to be, when in actual fact, wasn't that much different to the London Stadium. Reason being was down to the fact of down to the fact that some of the games were still quiet. A lot of the memories I have of the bowling was quiet atmospheres until something happened, and then the game started kicking in. So but everybody's everybody's memories faded, shall we say, in that instance. Okay, so yeah, we mentioned it. We got Frankfurt in the first leg tomorrow night, tonight when this goes up live on YouTube. So yeah, what are your thoughts on the Europa League campaign? Well, I mean, obviously we'll talk about the season in a minute, but in terms of the Europa League, what are your personal thoughts on this?
I think we've done really well. I think the boys in place done really well to manage a Europa League campaign and also fight for European and Premier League. That ain't an easy task at all. And I remember the last game of the Europa League, Zagreb, we played the kids because we'd already qualified, and we ain't had it easy by any means. Sevilla away, we lose 1-0. People going, they've won this thing 6 times. West Ham, this is their first time. What's the point of even going? And to speak of the best atmosphere, that's the best West Ham game I've ever been to, was the West Ham Sevilla game. And then Leon, I'm not even going to talk about the referee. I think we've all had enough of him.
Yeah. Least said about that, the better, mate. To be honest,
least said about that, the better. But I think we've played exceptional in the Europa League, and I think there's no reason why we can't go on and beat Frankfurt. Yeah, look, they're a good team. We've seen that against Barcelona, and they have some good bodies. They're really good on the ball, the looks of it, and then they're quite quick. But when the London Stadium's rocking, I think, why not? Why not?
Well, you see, this is my argument on it, mate. Is like I said earlier about we're as football supporters in general, we're too far in the past to see what's coming, and of course, like for example, Chelsea, for example. Let's talk about that as well, because obviously you're involved in the live chat for the watch along on Sunday as well. So genuinely, when we conceded that penalty before that stupid way it was scored, what were genuinely your thoughts when Dawson had that yellow card rescinded and it was turned to a red?
I think it's our bollocks, to be honest with you. How a man of 2 fingers brings down a man like Lukaku like that in the box. And I guess there's also an argument they weren't the last standing man as well. But if you want to talk about the penalty, it's a penalty. It's going to be given. That's football nowadays. I think Dawson's exceptional that game from
Yes.
what I got to see. He was absolutely exceptional, and he has been all season. To be fair to him, I remember at the start, he used to slag him off.
Mm.
Now he's one of our best players.
Yes. Yeah. See, you're one of the cliched fans, mate.
I am. I know.
It's just
very strong opinions, me.
Because, like for example, when it was announced that we signed him in the January last year, I seem to be one of the very, very few people, not just on YouTube but in West Ham community in general, that just went, give him a chance. Give him a chance. Let him see how he gets on. But yeah, I totally get it. It's like when we had Roger Johnson involved. Dawson had been relegated twice in 2 seasons. Totally understandable. But a player, just because a player's bad at what, but he was West Brom's, West Brom's best player in that season. And it's like for example, I mean, I'm critical of it myself. I understand how hypocritical I'm sounding at the minute, because when we signed Fabianski from Swansea, my first reaction, as it was on the announcement on my reaction video to it, was, why have we signed a relegated goalkeeper? Surely there's a reason why they got relegated. And bearing in mind his history that he had with Arsenal, being nicknamed Flappy Hansky, which he was all right at Arsenal, but just not to their level. But he's proven me wrong. And Dawson's proved everybody wrong. I mean, Riley, you'll remember, mate, I was asking the guys in the chat who the man of the match was, and the majority of people were saying either Rice or Dawson in that prior to, and this is way before the incident. I mean, looking back on it, the tussle starts outside the box, so it should have been given as a free kick. Lukaku makes an absolute meal of it, to really exaggerates his body position to get away with it. But, and you're absolutely right, and as we said at the time, he's not last man. Creswell's running in to try to, but I can understand why it's been given, because there's this split second, and I think I talked about it. We talked about it while we were doing the live stream. There's this split second where Dawson puts his arm around like that. And that's what causes Lukaku to go down. So I can understand why the red was given. I don't agree with it, because it doesn't hit any of the criteria. Like for example, was it a legitimate goal scoring opportunity? Yes, it was. But at the same point, surely a defender's job is to do relatively everything within the rules to stop the opposition scoring.
So it's a debate, and it's the debate for referee. But I think Fabianski did really well.
Yep.
As well, the defense did really well that game as well.
Absolutely.
Chelsea had more chances. Yeah, fine, but to hold them out for 90 minutes is, against European champions, Lukaku, Werner, Mount. We did well. Obviously, we let that goal in. Yeah, it's a tough one to take, but I think a couple of seasons ago, we wouldn't have gone to that game expecting anything at all. Now, every game we look at, we think, if we can nick a point there, and we can nick 3 points here now. So I think it shows how far we've come, to be honest, in such a short space of time. Even me, I remember earlier memories, mid-table relegation. Now we're talking about European football for the second season running. That's no easy feat.
No, especially with the constraints that we've got, not just squad size but budget. Which I'm not going on the budget. We've talked about this many times over the last few years, especially when I've done the review of the accounts every single season. But I mean, I'm gonna say, I was wrong. I said at the start of the season, if we have a decent run in the Europa League, we're going to get relegated because we haven't got the squad size to say it, to keep the momentum in the Premier League. Proven wrong, totally proven wrong, and again just shows the reasons why David Moyes should have really stayed on in the first place. I know people were saying that. We were saying, he was not good enough, and we wanted a better manager than him. But I don't remember anybody saying we need somebody that's already won the title with Man City. I don't remember anybody saying we need a absolutely honcho style manager.
Yeah, I remember when he came back in 2020 after Pellegrini got sacked. I remember everyone was up in arms about it. Why bring him back? It's a horrible decision. I thought at the time it was an okay one. So at the time we were facing relegation, I thought, well, you can save us from relegation, And then if you want to change manager next season, we can. But I think he can start to build something there. We can move on from that. And I think he's built one hell of a team and one hell of a project, and we are where we are now.
Absolutely. I mean, the football we played under him originally wasn't the best, but he did what he needed to do with 2 or 3 games spare, if I remember correctly. He hit me and Steve, who's got the seat next to me. We've known each other for quite a long time, and we were talking about it. In actual fact, we still talk about it now. That how hard done by he was because he did exactly what he was asked to do. It's a bit cheeky from Sullivan going, thanks, see you later after 6 months. You could see that Moyes had that Zola effect on the players where they were genuinely up for playing for him because like for example, what was it when he came in after we got rid of Bilic, he was giving them double drills. All right, fair enough. Pellegrini was giving them triple drills, but he was still drilling them to get them to that level. And with Pellegrini, you could say that Pellegrini continued on what Moyes had already started, and then Moyes came back to finish it. For example, that's Everton away. The first away, was it the second away game? I think Pellegrini managed, where you could see it all started gelling together. You could see how his ideas were coming to fruition. You could see how good a player Yarmolenko was in those days, and everything, and everything from that. So over the last 10 years, for example, when you think about West Ham, what's the first game that you've been to that comes to mind that makes you feel very, very happy and proud to be a West Ham supporter?
Well, speaking of cliche, I think it has to be Sevilla 1. Because it was just what a night it was. It had everything. I was with my dad, and we met a fellow called Luke, and we just chat and sang for 120 minutes. He even bought us a pint, and it was the best 120 minutes I think I've ever experienced as a West Ham fan. And it had everything. And obviously the fairy tale Yarmolenko goal. We played some really good football as well.
Yeah.
Against our team was second in La Liga at the time, chasing down Real Madrid. There wasn't no easy team we beat. It was really tough opposition. We played like we owned it. So I think as a core member, every kind of West Ham fan I spoke to goes, oh, well, West Ham 3, Man United 2 last season was the best game ever. But for me, that's going to be mine because that was the game for me.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree with you in any shape or form. I remember me and my mates at the pub afterwards, just saying, genuinely, just so pumped and saying, well, which one was better, the Man United game or this? Because they both got so much significance. But no, you're absolutely right, Riley. In recent history, there are no better games than those two. Absolutely no. Maybe that. I think the first time the London Stadium was properly rocking, for that Spurs game when if I remember correctly, I think Lanzini scored a brace. I think it was. I think it's 2017-18 season. I think it was something like that. But yeah, other than that, yeah, those two will. I mean, those two will always stick out in our memories. Of course, the Sevilla second leg is going to stick out because it's relatively recently. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a grandkids sort of conversation at some point for a lot of people. I mean, I genuinely can't remember the last time I was that happy. It was just
never can I, mate. Trust me.
It was, and it's my bloody timing as well, for that matter, because just before Souček scored that header, I'd gone to the toilet.
Oh, bollocks.
literally about 3 or 4 minutes I was in the toilet, and I was walking back, and I was coming up through the little concourses, and I just saw the goal go in. and it was just like
Yeah.
granted, seeing it on the screens rather than seeing it properly, but because obviously the screens are delayed by about half a second, so people started cheering just as I saw the goal going in. And I thought, do you know what? I'm so glad I actually got to see it, because that would have been the worst of. And obviously we got that Yarmolenko, as you said, we got the Yarmolenko goal afterwards. But I thought to myself, if this is going to go to extra time, because it would have been 1-1 at that point,
Yeah.
I would have been kicking myself. Really, really would. But yeah, so glad that I did get to see it. Okay, so what else have we? So yeah, so with the season in general, taking Europa League out of the equation, because obviously we're still in the race for the top 6 strokes, top 7 as it stands at the minute, with 5 games left to go. What were your original thoughts at the start of the season? How things were gonna progress?
Well, look, to be honest, with the Europa League campaign, and when I know we brought in Vlasic and then the Riola
Mm.
in the summer, but I did think it'd be a mid-table finish. I did. I think I said if we're out of Europa League by December, then yeah, we'll push for top 6. But if we're still in it and thereabouts, then I think we'll finish around 10th, 9th, or 8th, maybe a just top half finish. But we started really well, and we started the Europa League campaign really well.
Mm.
And I think we beat Liverpool 3-2, we beat Chelsea 3-2. We've done Tottenham, and I remember we had the Carabao Cup run as well. So we've balanced it out quite well, I think, with the league. And still be in a position we are, I don't think is. I think should be celebrated more than. I know some fans are upset. We've lost to Brentford and we dropped points to Burnley. People are up in arms about it. We should be in a top 4 position. As now, if we can beat those big teams, why can't we beat the little teams, so to speak? But if if we win the Europa League, God forbid we do, because imagine we do. We'll play Champions League football next season
with a absolutely unbearable bare bones squad. That's the thing. To be honest with you, mate, like for example, what was it? Who was it? Yeah, one of the guys put a comment in the live chat before we went live for the Chelsea watch along, saying that the squad was a joke.
I saw that, yeah.
And I was just like, hang on a second. That's why I'm not going to call them out. I'm not the person to do that. But because I said at the time, it's clear that David Moyes is prioritising the Europa League. And to be honest with you, taking a point against Burnley, very, very happy with that. As I said in the preview, given what's coming up, I would have been happy with a loss. So, and getting a decent result on Thursday or tomorrow night. So, but you see, this is the point. This is the fact that as football fans, we're so used to, especially from a West Ham perspective, we're so used to having the Premier League being the focus that that people can't take any priority other than that, because we're not used to it. That's the thing. And likewise, totally justified. I understand the reasons behind it, but at the same point, we're unbeaten against Burnley. Granted, we've only taken 2 points off them this season. It was a 0-0 away, then it was the one, it was the 1-1 at home. But we would have taken that any day of the week, because
if you told me West Ham playing semi-league, Europa League semi-final, but you'd have to take 2 points at Burnley, I'd say I'll chop you arm off for it.
Completely, and we were pretty much odds on to get a point against Chelsea as well, for that matter. Up until, we talk about. I don't mean to be rude to the bloke in any shape or form, but I do think Fabianski was in the wrong place for that goal. I really, really do. Close, very, very close margins in it as always, but I just think his positioning was a little bit off. But having said that, again, like we were saying earlier about how well we defended in that, it shows, as you said earlier, mate. It shows how far we've come under a very, very short period of time. Unbelievably short period of time, 18 months, pretty much. Well, yeah, pretty much 18 months. That we're talking about being disappointed of losing 1-0 to Chelsea, like it was just before lockdown happened, being disappointed of losing 1-0 to Arsenal. And again, the reason again, a game we unbelievably defended unbelievably well. Some of the best defending I've ever seen us do. And Fornell's made a mistake, unfortunately, right at the death, which caused us to concede that goal at Arsenal. So, but again, 2 or 3 seasons ago, before that Arsenal game, we would have gone happy with that. We normally get battered. We normally lose it. And likewise with when Dawson was sent off, my first thought against Chelsea was, I thought we got rid of this. I thought we stopped conceding penalties late at the death. But at the same point, when was the last time we got battered 4 or 5-0?
We haven't got battered 4 or 5-0 this season, I don't think.
No, we haven't for 2. We haven't
for 2 even. Yeah.
Even we haven't under Moyes at all, because he stopped that. Like for example, the old joke used to be, we're playing Man City at home on Sky Sports on a Monday night. You know what's happening, 4 or 5-0. It's not, it's not like that anymore, and I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. But the thing is that I've always said there's always 3 types of football supporter, right? There's one type that is gonna think, right, we're gonna win the title, we're gonna win the cup, and we're gonna finish in Champions League, right? And then you got the second supporter that's like me and quite a lot of people that watch the channel by the looks of things, is that just happy to see what happens. As long as we play well and we have a decent finish and we have a decent cup run, I'm happy. And then you got the other, then you got the third, which is basically, we're going to get relegated. We're not going to do a fucking thing this season. You have it through every single football club. It's not just us; it's every single one, and it's bonkers the way it happens. It really is. But so all right. So as I don't normally do this, curious to see, Riley, what's your score prediction for the first leg tomorrow night?
Oh, well, look, obviously it being the home leg, I think we need to not lose. Fundamentally, there we go. I think it's actually going to play out the same as it did against Lyon for the first half. The first 20 minutes we're scrapping it a little bit. We're just trying to find our feet. I reckon around the 30-minute mark, we'll start to find our feet again.
Mm-hmm.
I reckon we might nick a goal, start of the second half, and maybe we'll try and sit back and defend. It depends how Moyes lines up and how he plays. But I'm going to be optimistic and say West Ham 2-0. I'm going to go for it.
Do you know what? I can't disagree with you. I'll be very surprised if we keep a clean sheet.
I know, it's optimistic, isn't it?
But mate, at the end of the day, this is what I'm talking about. This is how confident we are and how happy we are at the minute. All right, okay, technically, all right, you can argue we're starting to turn into Arsenal supporters as a result of it, but we've got pride in the club. And that's the thing that we love the most about it, is understanding everything that happens in West Ham, understanding everything that happens in the club. Obviously, there's loads of other talking points which we could have gone into from my point of view. So, but unless there's anything that you want to talk to me about, it's just we've got to embrace it. We've had a phenomenal season as it stands once again. This is the best. This is probably the best ever time since. Yep. All right. I'm going to use the cliche, since 1986 to be a West Ham supporter. I generally think it is. So the floor is yours, mate. Is there any topics that you want to talk about?
Well, look, I think on what we've based through today, we've talked about best atmosphere and best result. I think it's worthy mention. I think as a cliche to see how far we've come. Is I remember 2020 West Ham Brighton. Oh God! And doing that game, we were 3-1 up, and that's the worst defensive and atmosphere I've had at West Ham. That was the worst. Because we were 3-1 up. I think Glenn Murray scored a double in quick succession or something. And I remember walking out the stadium. I generally thought then, and people behind me, we were talking about relegation. I remember that, and I use that now as the kind of back of my head when we talk about, oh yeah, by the way, we're playing Frankfurt on Thursday. Yeah, your police final. But I agree. I think there's no better time to be a West Ham supporter than now. And I think you just got to enjoy it. Just enjoy it. We might not get this again for a couple of years. I mean, we might not be in this position, 10 years down the line. But just enjoy it while it lasts. Get behind the boys, and who knows what could happen.
Absolutely, mate. Okay, so question for you. Brighton. How the fuck have we not beaten them since we played them in the Championship?
I ain't got a clue. I haven't got a clue. I remember we smashed. I remember, was it first Tay scored an overhead kick or something against them?
He scored a hat trick in that game. It was like, was it 5-1 or something?
I remember that. And every time we played them, that's why I said in the watch along, we ain't going to get a point from Brighton. So we got to beat City or Norwich. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about Brighton. We just cannot beat them. I remember this season, I was at the Brighton game this season. Socek scored in the 4th minute, and I thought, this is the one. But this is it. And then Mope in like the last minute scores that overhead kick, and I was like, fucking hell. How would you do that then?
To be honest, mate, Mope is a player I would have loved to have seen. I know we were rumoured to be linked with him. I don't think we were properly linked with him, but what a player that kid is. Unbelievable.
He has his off days, but when he's firing, it's the same with Antonio. When he's firing and when he's playing to his best, he is a force to be reckoned with.
Okay, so obviously with the by this time next month, the season's over, and we're going to start looking towards the summer transfer window, much less next season. For you, first and foremost, who stays?
I think we should try and keep everyone we have now. Obviously, some will bugger off. I mean, Yarmolenko and Fredericks are linked to move away. I think those are areas that we can also improve on. So I wouldn't mind, Yarmo and Fredericks calling it a day and moving on. But I think recruitment and signings this summer is as crucial as it's ever been, because if we don't do it this summer, we ain't going to do well next season. It's just facts. It's just, we've seen it this season. Some days we can barely get the ball moving and running. So,
okay, all right. So, I'm not going to ask for players in any shape or form, but for you, what are the positions that are a priority coming into the transfer window?
Well, on the topic of cliches, I think the striker.
Well, it's not a cliche, mate. We ain't got one.
Antonio played fucking right back when I first met him, and he's up front. I mean, against Burnley, if we had a striker up front against Burnley, I reckon we nick a point. We nick 3 points from that game.
Absolutely agree.
Also, maybe Areola. I don't see no reason why not to sign him. I think we're linked with him. We can get him. I forgot what the number was for a ballpark figure, but
it was 11 million, I think, after the loan fee originally. Yeah.
I think that's an absolute bargain. For this is the goalkeeper I went off for France in 2018 in the World Cup.
Exactly. How typical would it be of West Ham to have him in goal for the Europa League final? We win it, and then he fucks off back to PSG.
And then we go sign Sam Johnston from West Brom. It's
exactly.
Honestly.
Not there's anything wrong with Sam Johnston. I think he's a very, very good goalkeeper.
He's a good keeper, but Areola, I think, is just better in every sort of way. So why wouldn't you make the move?
Okay, so goalkeeper and a striker. Anybody else? Or any other position, I should say.
Probably the midfield. I think we're linked like Lewis Potter from Hull, aren't we? I've seen a lot of that on Twitter. The next Jared Bowen. I think he'd be good. We've got a couple of free agents this summer we need to be looking into. Obviously, again, Jesse Lingard, people want him back. I'm looking at James Tarkowski from Burnley. Especially if they go down, I think there's no reason on earth why we shouldn't be going for that.
Absolutely. So, go on, sorry, mate. Go on.
No, go on.
No, I was just going to say anyone else, but you were about to continue, so go for it.
No, and the only other addition was, I've been keeping on that Brenton Diaz. I know we've been linked with him time and time again, but if Blackburn don't make the playoffs this season, I think they're about 3 points off with 2 games to go. They don't make the playoffs, and they don't get up. I don't see no reason why we shouldn't go for him either as that striker option.
Yeah, I love the fact that we've been and have been for the last few seasons now, trying to sign the best players of the teams down in the Championship, because the best players down there are 95% of the time are ready to be coming up to Premier League level, with the exception, I hate to say it, but with the exception of Saïd Benrahma. I've been so disappointed with him this season. He's a good player. He's Premier League level. I just don't think he's what we need. You know, because as you'll remember my rant when we sold Grady to West Brom and bought in Ben Rama, it still doesn't make any sense to me personally. Because at the end of the day, we sold a youngster. Granted, he's not gone on and set a light at West Brom and everything, but we sold a player and then bought an pretty much an exact replica of him, 3 or 4 years older. You know, and the rumor what I understand, because my next door neighbour is an Arsenal supporter, and he's known the Johnson family for a good few years. They've lived in this road for almost a decade now.
I remember you on about that, yeah.
And I was talking to him before the Lyon second leg, and he was saying that the reason why Johnson stayed with West Ham was because the absolute hurricane that happened when Grady Diangana was sold. Apparently, that's the only reason, because all the players went, "Why are you selling our potentials? You got to keep more youngsters on," and apparently that's the reason why he stayed on. I mean, granted, we obviously we got rid of Jeremy Ngakia as well for that matter, and he's not exactly doing much with Watford this season, is he? So, or last season for that matter. So I get it from that side of things, but at the same point, we have the youth in there. It's just I don't think we're going to see many of them. I really don't. I mean, personally, for me, I would start Elise in for Arsenal. I'd try him for that, especially bearing in mind. I mean, obviously, there's the stories that that X has confirmed that Zuma's is getting closer to a return, as is Diop, because apparently Diop's original diagnosis wasn't as bad as everybody thought. Which is fantastic news, and of course,
really positive news.
You know, as we know that when Dawson won't be eligible for Arsenal. I'm glad that is just a 1-game suspension rather than the 3 for the red card. I love that. Yeah. But I really like mentioned earlier about that last qualifying game of the rounds, where all the kids were out. They were fantastic. Really, really,
they were really good. I don't know why we haven't tried and errored more of them. I didn't even try and error, to be honest. You know, even sub them on for 20 minutes at the end of the game. I think Perkins came on against Leeds for 3-4 minutes or something like that, and I think he tried to make an impact. And I thought he did all right. So I don't see no reason why not to play him. I know people on about Elise. I think he put something on his Instagram about haircut for Thursday or something like that. People are fearing he's going to start. I don't think Thursday is the right day to start. Neither do I. I don't think Moyes will.
It's too much. It's too much of a risk.
Way too much. But I've seen no reason why he can't play Sunday.
Absolutely,
I think he'll do really well.
To be honest with you, I wouldn't. And I'll mention this in more detail in the preview that's going to be coming up in the next couple of days. But I wouldn't be at all surprised if Moyes rotates again. I wouldn't be at all surprised of that, depending obviously on how, if we're very, very comfortable or at least in a very good chance for the second leg, I wouldn't be at all surprised if Moyes rotates again. The only worry I have with it was the formation that Chelsea played and the formation that we played is the same formation that Frankfurt plays. And my issue with it is I always say you should really have your formation to, 1, play to the strengths of your squad, and to 2, to have to exploit any weaknesses your opponent's formation has. Which is why I'm always saying when it comes to a 4-2-3-1 team, we should be playing a 4-3-3. Really think we should be. I mean, obviously, it's more than likely we're going to start a 4-2-3-1 tomorrow night, which is our go-to formation for the season. But with that formation, you can easily slip into a 4-3-3, which is why Chelsea did it, because they were 4-3-3 at times as well. So that you can, I mean, obviously, with Chelsea's players are 10 times better than us. I hate to say it, but they are. You know, so that you can have 11 players and they can do three or four different formations at any given point. But having a fresh Antonio against Frankfurt, having a relatively fresh Bowen, having a relatively fresh Rice, Souček, puts us in very, very, very good stead. And who would have thought, from a West Ham perspective, for the first time in, actually probably not that far off to almost when you were born, mate, to be honest, we don't need to worry about right backs.
Yeah,
we've got Soufal, we've got Johnson, and we've got Harrison Ashby coming through as well.
And Ashby, that's four, yeah.
His I know everyone's saying, all right, we'll have Fredericks at a right back, but he's not a right back for me. In the same way that Masuaku's not a left back.
And it's not left back. He's not a left back.
It's unreal. I mean, Ashby's played 4, maybe 5 games, I think, this season.
The Arsenal one, I know that much. I can't remember where else he played.
Because he made his debut under Pellegrini in the League Cup against Everton and was unbelievable in that game. He started the Spurs League Cup away game this season. Again, brilliant in that. As like we're saying, he was in the last of the qualifying group games as well. That's at least 2 or 3 that I can remember in already. I know he's come on as substitutes I think a couple of times, but just fantastic. As I say, just carrying on with the Elise conversation, the future's bright. It really, really is. And as we were talking about earlier, mate, it is probably the best time to be a West Ham supporter because we've got very good juniors coming through. We're trying to keep hold of our best players. We're letting our best some of our fringe players that still could do a job go. Yarmolenko, for example. I personally think if the situation over in Ukraine wasn't going on, I think we'd probably give him another year. I really think we would, just because he's a super sub and we really need that at the minute. The only reason why he's been playing so well is because of how much affection he's been getting because of what's going on. And that's a big criticism to the way things are being run at West Ham, because it shouldn't have to take that situation for him to find his feet again,
And he does have. He came on for that Aston Villa game, and he scored that goal. And it wasn't an easy goal to score as well. And obviously, Sevilla goal. And I remember he first signed, against Norwich and Bournemouth. I think he had one against United as well. I think that season.
Yeah,
he did. Yeah, he has that moment of quality, doesn't he?
Yeah,
he can produce it, and I think that's why we're a bit upset with him. Like, he weren't thriving earlier in the season. He could do it.
But it just shows because he wasn't confident at club level because he wasn't playing. And again, goes back to the old cliche of you can't get the experience if you're not playing, but you're not playing because you haven't got the experience. It's like we're getting a job or trying to go for a promotion. It's just it's that real conundrum rather than cliche. Conundrum is probably a better word for it. But yeah, no, thank you, Riley. Thank you very, very much for your time, mate. It's been great to properly talk to you, and thank you very much for, obviously, of course, for signing up to Patreons. I can now change the credits because I don't have to do the welcome anymore because you officially had your credit. Your proper shout out. So yeah, thank you very, very much for your time, mate. Much appreciated.
Much appreciated, mate. Thank you.
It's the least I can do because you've been with the channel for a good couple of seasons now, and you've always popping in with the chat and engaging with everybody. It's great to see, and that's what I love about this the channel is I know other channels are more frequent with their content than I do and everything else, but I like to stand out, and maybe I stand out for slightly too much, who knows. But anyway, guys, so thank you very much for watching this video as well, guys. If you want to become a Patreon, as I say, if you want to get access to exclusive content from both myself, because we're now doing on a regular basis, we're doing polls for what you think the result's going to be. That's exclusive to Patreons across all tiers, as well as just being making the donations that Tony does every month. there's also content from AJ when he's able, from Kiwi Hammers when he's able to create that. He does some really, really good blogs for us. He hasn't done it for about a month, but he's got a very, very busy workload. But you will get to see that. You'll also have access to the previews 24 hours in advance before it goes up to YouTube, and also you have an exclusive phone background that you'll get as well, which is only available to the Patreons. And Riley, I know you had it. You set your phone up straight away when I sent it over to you. So
I did. I still have it, mate.
Good lads. What I like to hear, lying or not, that's what I like to hear. But in the meantime, guys,
I do.
well, for those that are watching on YouTube, later tonight we'll have the full-time thoughts for the Europa League semi-final first leg. I thought I'd never ever say that. I really thought we'd never get into this. And also the Arsenal preview will be available on Friday, and of course on Sunday there will be the full-time thoughts. But in the meantime, guys, have a fantastic rest of your week, and I hope to see you very, very soon. All the best now. Take care.